All right, everybody, welcome into our third attempt at launching the first edition of the College Court Report podcast for the 2017-18 season. We've got a special one for you tonight. We're going to take a look at the 2017 Champions Classic, which takes place Tuesday in Chicago. I'm joined with Ryan Scarfone tonight. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Hopefully we get this right, because last time we recorded at 1 a.m. in the morning, my time, Eastern Standard Time, and it didn't really work out. All that work for nothing. So hopefully this is, we're good.
Hopefully
we got it under control, worked out the kinks, got good Wi-Fi. There's nothing I hate more than bad Wi-Fi. As a millennial, that is what grinds my gears.
And that is the true definition of a first world problem. If you don't have good Wi-Fi, your day is ruined, especially on a Monday.
That and one and dones, but I'm sure we'll get into that in this edition of the podcast. I mean, it's not like there's a team that we're about to talk about that has a lot of one and dones. So,
oh, not at all. Heaven forbid you have a one and done conversation on Monday with bad Wi-Fi, and your day's just gone to shits real quick.
Exactly. It just doesn't go over so well.
No, it doesn't. But we'll get right into the Champions Classic. You got 4 of the top 7 teams in the country set to square off. Duke and Michigan State, obviously, is the premier matchup. The top 2 teams in the country, they tip off at 7 Eastern time. I think 7 or 7:30. I'm not sure. Me being on the West Coast, it's a little bit different out here. So
7 on ESPN.
And then you've got number 5 Kansas, number 7 Kentucky at 9:30 Eastern, following the completion of Duke, Michigan State. So I don't think in the first 5 days of the season you could ask for a better pair of matchups, especially on a Tuesday night.
Gosh, I love early season college basketball. I mean, they always have perennial powerhouses playing early, and it's just, I love it. Duke versus Michigan State, Kentucky and Kansas doesn't get better than that.
No, and you can probably bet too that when the Champions Classic came into practice a few years ago, this is a dream matchup, having 1 versus 2, and these 4 teams just kind of rotate every year, and it's good matchups regardless, because all 4 teams are always at the top of their conference every single year, and it's always good to get some exciting basketball under their belts. And it's a shame that 2 will have a loss under their belts after Tuesday's all said and done, but that's the way the cookie crumbles.
But it will give us a good indication on kind of where these teams stand, because they're actually playing good competition. I mean, these teams so far have played, Elon and Utah Valley. Not bad teams. They're clearly, these smaller schools are clearly outmatched by these bigger schools. And I wish that they did a Champions Classic at the beginning of the season and at the end. I know they play their conference schedule at the end, but it'd be cool to kind of to bring them back and to see where they both match up then after they've been able to play the season. So, but this is still good. I'll still take what the scenario is right now.
The Champions Classic at the end of the year is called the Final Four.
Yeah, I know, but you can't guarantee that these teams are going to see each other ever again,
No, but that's all part of as the Sixers say, trust the process. If you trust the process, you'll make it to the Final Four and get a repeat of your Champions Classic.
Are you trusting this process?
Well, all 4 teams have a realistic chance of making the Final Four. I mean, all 4 could very well get 1 seeds in the tournament, and they have the talent, at least on paper, to make it to the Final Four and give you your second look at a Champions Classic, if you will. But anything can happen in March.
Really? Anything? I don't think.
Pretty much.
There's really no upsets that happen in March Madness.
Never.
It's pretty predictable. I mean, when I actually, all jokes aside, when I pick my bracket, I forget literally I don't forget that there's upsets, but sometimes I can't bring myself to pick these small, these 15 seed teams or 14 to beat a 2 or a 3. I just can't bring myself to do it. And then when it happens, it's I should have known. Duke lost, but.
And then your bracket's all gone to shits on the first day. It was like me, the Michigan State lost to Middle Tennessee.
Sad day. Sad day.
As a diehard Spartans fan, I almost cried. In Denver, at the Denver Regionals that year. I almost cried.
Hey, I wouldn't doubt it. They didn't really play that well. And what sucks is
the thing is,
go ahead.
People say they didn't play well. They didn't. They actually played decent. Middle Tennessee just shot like crazy. They shot about 50% from the field. And once Michigan State fell behind at the start, it was done with. Middle Tennessee just kind of maintained their pressure and didn't really give them a chance to claw their way back into it.
It sucks that was the end to Denzel Valentine's like historic career at Michigan State. It's just a crappy way to go out.
Just the salt on the wound.
But he's not.
But hey,
he's not doing too bad in the NBA, and Michigan State's not doing too bad right now. You know.
No, I know. Nice 1-0 start. Win over North Florida, 98-66 to start the year. They've got Duke, who have won by 29 and 30 points, respectively, in their two games.
They look good. They look good.
They do look good. They've got a lot of young guys, but Bagley's living up to the hype. He's averaging a double-double a game, 24.5 points, 10 rebounds, shooting almost 66% from the floor. You can't really say much bad about Duke. You got Trayvon Duval's got 11.5 points, 10 assists a game, 65% from the field.
What's their freshman count? How many freshmen are they starting? What's their freshman count?
How many are they starting? We got Grayson Allen's a senior. I'd probably say 3 or 4. They'll probably roll with on a nightly basis.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Michigan State, their opponent, a little more experienced in the starting lineup. 4 sophomores and a freshman, Jaren Jackson. To me, read on Twitter today, people were saying that Michigan State isn't as good as people make them out to be because of their 8-point exhibition win over Ferris State. Now, I think that's the most absurd thing I've ever read today, probably in the last week, because you're basing it off an exhibition game. Yeah, I get it. Michigan State's second in the country. Ferris State's not a Division I team, but at their level, Ferris State is one of the best teams in the country. Mm-hmm. And it is basketball. If you make your shots, you're going to have a chance to win, regardless of if you're Division I or Division III or a JUCO. You're going to have a chance to win if you make your shots.
I mean, go ahead, finish it.
As I said, if you can't, on the contrary, if you can't make your shots, then you're not going to win. So that's the way it goes.
I mean, I watched that game against Ferris State, and they did look a little sluggish. I mean, all teams look sluggish. Their first games back. It's been a long off season. These guys are just getting back into the routine of playing, so it takes a little bit to work out the kinks. And I mean, these guys are 18 to 22-year-olds, so you never know what they bring to the table that day. I mean, with professionals, they've been doing it for a long time, but with college kids, they're impulsive. You don't know what will happen. So I think Michigan State is going to give Duke a really good game. I mean, North Florida, their whole starting lineup all scored double-digit figures, with 2 of them in two of them recording a double-double. So I think they're back into the groove and playing. Every team has bad games. Every team has bad days. It's college. If you don't know that by now, if you're a college basketball fan and you don't know that smaller schools have really good days, bigger schools have bad days as well, then you don't really know what college basketball is, or you've never watched a tournament before. So I don't take that Ferris State. That has really no validity to the argument of, they're not a good team. There's going to be a lot. You got to give me a lot more than Ferris State to say that Michigan State's a bad team, because on paper and what they've shown, they look really good.
Yeah, and I think, too, you'd rather have the bad games, get them out of your system in exhibition when they don't matter, as opposed to lose one of those early season games to a smaller school in a bye game. Work out those early season jitters, work out the kinks in those exhibition games, and build your momentum to when you come against a team like Duke, Michigan State will on Tuesday. You're kind of in your system. You know what your team brings to the table if you're Coach Izzo, and you're kind of ready to go and make a statement with a big win over the number 1 team in the country.
Because don't forget, these smaller schools, like this is their, when they play these bigger schools, first of all, they're getting a lot of money to play these Michigan States. But this is their chance to play on these kids, to play on TV against a historic program. It's their, well, I mean, it's their finals, it's their Super Bowl, it's the biggest stage. So these guys are going to ball out against these teams, and they should give them a run for their money. So don't really expect that these small schools to just get kicked around for 40 minutes. I mean, that's just not realistic.
No, and like you said, they're going to bring everything they have and then some to the table. Like we'll touch on that when we get to Kansas, Kentucky, when Kansas played Tennessee State, the amount of guys that they rolled out to play the Jayhawks. I mean, it's one thing to play a big team, but it's also another thing is the experience of playing in these big-time arenas, playing in Allen Fieldhouse, playing in the Breslin Center. Whatnot. It's an experience for these guys who may not get to play there, another chance in their career. So these guys are going to try and make the most out of their situation, out of the game. And if they pull an upset, great. If they don't, they can take and learn from these bigger teams, translate that into conference success as the year goes on.
But think about like the PR that Utah Valley got from playing Kentucky one day and then in 24 hours playing Duke. They were all over ESPN. They love that. Yeah, sure, they're 0-2, but they love that.
Yeah, the toughest 24, and it gives people a big insight into these schools, into these programs, and how they operate, how they run. And it shows you that there are 351 schools in Division I, yet mainstream media only focuses on the power conferences, and these kids in these schools don't really get the light of day that they deserve, which is a bit of a shame.
A little bit of a hot take there, Tyler.
A little bit. Throwing a little bit of shade at the national media.
Respectable. So, Duke versus Michigan State. What matchups do you like?
Well, you got to look at the front court, I think, with Wendell Carter, Marvin Bagley kind of playing the wing. Up front for Duke. Then you've got Bridges, Nick Ward, Jaren Jackson, Ben Carter, Gavin Schilling. I think the front court is where this game will be won. I think I'd give Michigan State a slight edge in terms of guard play, just based on experience alone. Not saying Duval hasn't done well in his first two games, but when it comes to NCAA, you can't put a price on experience, and I think Michigan State has that in spades when talking about Duke. Outside of Grayson Allen, they're rolling with a lot of young guys in the back end. So I'd give the edge to State in the backcourt with Langford, Winston, Tum Tum. Those guys. Matt McQuaid, my underrated guy in the offseason for the Spartans. Guy can shoot. So I think it really comes down to the front court. And you got to give the edge to the Spartans just based on depth and experience and bringing back both Ben Carter and Gavin Schilling from injury, who missed all of last season. It really adds another element to Izzo's offense. And if one guy gets in foul trouble, he has two or three guys waiting in line to come out, and they're not going to miss a beat with whoever they put in.
I mean, we talked about earlier that like the Michigan State starting lineup all scored double-digit figures, but they played a lot of guys against North Florida. So like you said, a lot of guys that they can turn to that if people get in foul trouble, like Schilling, he recorded 6 points, 8 rebounds. You know, that's pretty good. And I do agree that they have a better set of guards than the Duke Blue Devils, but the front court is going to be interesting. I can't wait to see, what Bagley can do. I saw what he could do against these smaller schools, averages a double-double. Now I want to see him play against the bigger guys. So, I mean, what does he stand? How tall is Bagley? Bagley is, I'm going to say 6'11".
6'7"?
6'11".
Is he 6'11"?
On.
I underestimated his size.
I didn't think
I apologize.
I didn't think he was that tall. Wow.
But I think still watching him go in the front court against a guy like Bridges, a guy like Nick Ward. Nick Ward is vastly underrated in my books in the front court for the Spartans. He's not a very big guy. I think Ward's at like 6'8". But he's solid. He's rock solid in the paint. And Bagley may have the athleticism, and obviously a size advantage, but I'm interested to see how Bridges and Ward in that front court for the Spartans kind of handle Bagley. And if they throw him off his game, where does Duke go? Who do they turn to next? Grayson Allen, is he the second guy up? Do they go Trent? Do they go to Gary Trent Jr.? 17 points in his first 2 games.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Who do they go to after Bagley?
After Bagley, I mean, maybe, Trent Jr. Comes to mind. Grayson Allen, I don't know. So it's if they shut down Bagley, Duke's gonna be Duke's in for a bit of a spin.
Well, that's the thing too. Like with experience, it comes down to experience. And if these young guys get rattled, like they haven't been rattled in 2 games at Duke. If Michigan State throws them off, how do they handle that adversity? How do they come back and say, okay, we can't go this way. What's plan B? How do we attack the Spartans? And I don't know if they will face they won't face this type of adversity all year. They won't play another team like Michigan State.
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, the ACC is a pretty good conference. So, like when you're playing in your league play, and you face teams like Louisville, Notre Dame, who's another big team that I can't think of, North Carolina. That's another one. I was drawing blanks. North Carolina. If they get into some situations where they're down on themselves, will they be able to, come back from that? So, and you know how millennials get. Millennials, when they get down on themselves, it's hard to get them back.
Okay. Let me rephrase that then. They won't face another team with the amount of depth that Michigan State has all season. And with the adversity that they may face against the Spartans, if they come at them a different way, Michigan State has so many options that they can counterbalance what Duke's doing. I don't think any team in the ACC has the flexibility that Michigan State has. Fair.
And I don't
think any team in the country has
and Trent Jr. will they be able to handle
has with their offense
the guard play from Michigan State, like that you said, you think is a lot better than Duke. So will they be able to come back and be able to, initiate that spark once again? I don't know if they can do it. So this is going to be a good test, because we all know Kentucky, which we'll get to in a little bit, their youngins experienced some adversity. I mean, they eventually came back, but it's clear that these freshmen, you can't just focus on getting one and dones. You have to have a well-rounded team, and you have to develop these guys, because these freshmen sometimes can't handle the adversity.
No, and they're not accustomed to the workload at the NCAA level. They're accustomed to the workload at the high school level, but it's a whole different animal when it comes to Division I. And just quickly, you said that I said Michigan State's guards are much better than Duke's. I didn't say they're much better. I'd give them the edge based on experience, and they both guard sets bring something different to the table. And to me, Michigan State's balance and depth, I think, gives them the edge in terms of guard play. I mean, they both have guys who can score. Yeah, they both have guys who can facilitate the offense. I just think Michigan State has a little bit more on both sides.
I do agree with you.
But that could go either way.
Player of the game and winner. Who you got?
Got to defend my claims.
And winner.
Player of the game. Ooh. With all personal bias aside, I think Michigan State's going to pull out a 5-point win.
It's going to be it's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be close.
Thinking like 79-74 around there.
We'll get to that later.
I think the second game will be a bit more of a score discrepancy, but to me, I think player of the game will be Nick Ward. I think he's going to have a big game because Bridges and Bagley will kind of go at one another, and I think Ward will quietly put up a double-double. Flirt with it, maybe like 16 and 9. He did shoot 100% from the field against North Florida, so he's highly effective in the paint around the basket. I would probably go.
Interesting. Okay,
so I'm Michigan State 79-74 over Duke, and then Nick Ward.
I agree with.
As my
did you hear that?
Player of the game.
That ding? That's my bad. It's my phone. But anyways, I'm going to go against you. Make things interesting. I'm going to choose Duke. I agree with what you said. I don't dispute it, but I'm on the Marvin Bagley hype.
Of course you're saying Duke.
Hype. I think that they're going to take care of Michigan State. They're not going to take care of them by a big margin, but it's going to be a close one. So I'm going to guess it's going to be Duke 80, Michigan State 77. It's going to be that specific. And you know that I'm pretty good at predicting scores. I mean, the last podcast that we tried to do, I was just throwing numbers out there for comedic relief, but I actually But if you read my article, actually, I predicted that
you said Duke would beat DePaul by, or not Duke, Notre Dame would beat DePaul by
14,
more than
and they
20.
Won by 12.
More
or no, other way around.
20.
They won by 14. I don't know. All I know is that I got it right. Close. That I was just throwing numbers around, but I'm going Duke 80, Michigan State 77.
You were close,
and
but you got cold feet on your 20-point
prediction.
prediction. You got nervous.
I got Bagley. I'm gonna be one of those guys that says,
scared.
Of course he's gonna go with the number one recruit, the 5-star recruit being the player of the game. I'm going Bagley. He's not gonna have it. I don't think he's gonna have a double-double, but he's gonna put up good numbers, and he's gonna be close to a double-double. But you're gonna see what
taking the safe route.
I think he's going to go somewhere of
I want to say Bagley's going to go for 16 and 7.
and 8.
And he'll shoot sub
and
40% from the field.
The numbers that you said. Field goal percent.
Yeah, sub 40 from the field. But I think either way, I don't think you can go wrong. It's going to be a close game regardless. And as basketball fans, all you can hope for is a close game. The thing I hate the most is seeing a blowout. So I think
I don't dispute that.
This will be probably.
I'm looking forward to this game a lot more than
the best game of the season.
The Kansas to Kentucky game. That's not to say that it's not going to be a good game, but we'll get into why we think that this game's going to be a lot better. But geez, I love college basketball, man. I love it. Hey, don't talk about that. I mean,
so
college
excited.
football
so sad that 3 days are already gone.
Over.
The fourth day is well underway, and
college basketball is just
before we know it's going to be over, and I'm going to be disappointed again.
Yeah.
I am glad, though, that we get Duke, Michigan State first. Don't have to suffer through Kansas, Kentucky first to get to the good game. We talked before. We both think it'll go heavily in Kansas's favor, just strictly based on experience. Kentucky has rolled with 8 guys in their first 2 games, a 10-point win over Utah Valley and a 4-point win over Vermont. They had 6 freshmen and 2 sophomores see action, which is, in my eyes, not a recipe for success at the Division I level.
A couple freshmen,
especially
moral of the story, they got more experience. They got more guys that have played college basketball.
3 seniors in their starting lineup.
They've seen adversity. They know it. They love it. And they can't wait to take it to these youngins.
Well, especially with Kansas, they get 5-star forward Billy Preston, who's supposed to play on Tuesday, but up front they got Udoka Azubuike, big body in the paint. Like he's a man's body taking on freshman forwards. I don't really see anything going Kentucky's way inside. I think Azubuike, 13 points, 6 rebounds, 2 blocks against Tennessee State. Yeah, it's a softer game, but he's a beast. He's a big boy. And Kentucky's forwards haven't really played a guy of his size. And I think they need to get Wenyen Gabriel, sophomore, involved a little more. He was played limited action in their first two games.
This is going to be the game that you're going to see
4.5 points,
experience is going to take its
to me, all signs point to Kansas
Kentucky,
win. And it wouldn't surprise me.
Like I said, Kentucky doesn't have a lot of guys that have played a lot of college basketball minutes. I mean, majority of their, I'm going to say, I think all of their starting lineup, because the one is a redshirt freshman. This is their first game action. And, you know, they did not start off against their opponents against Utah Valley and Vermont. So they didn't start off well. I mean, they eventually squeezed out wins, but it wasn't, I'm not really confident in Kentucky Wildcats. And before, you know, those past teams when they had, you know, like Jamal Murray, and they had, you know, some rough patches at the beginning, but eventually they found who they were and played to their potential. I don't think that this is going to be that type of team this year. I think you're going to see a Kentucky team that that's going to struggle. And when you get into the SEC play and when they face teams like Alabama and Florida, I don't know how they're at. I don't know if Kentucky is the lock for the SEC, to be honest. So, you know, this is going to be a game where I think, you know, your seniors like Graham are really going to take it to Kentucky.
What he said too, like a lot of their guys haven't played big college basketball minutes, and when they get down and they get that adversity, they don't have a senior leader who they can turn to for experience and for leadership. In when they get their backs against the wall, they don't have that guy who has played big time minutes, has faced all these scenarios over his career that can kind of guide them through those rough patches. They don't have that guy. Whereas a team like Kansas,
this year's Frank Mason,
Devontae Graham, they have a leader, a rock solid leader on the back end who can guide these young guys, kind of coach them through the rough patches. And 100%. And it'll be interesting to see how Kentucky handles adversity. Against Utah Valley, they were down 9 at halftime, ended up winning by 10.
And you're playing in
okay, good for you. But what happens when you're down 9 against a team like Kansas? Who steps up on the bench and says what they need to hear to get going? Mm-hmm. John Calipari is going to have a big challenge ahead of him this year. And it might be like Michigan State last year when they went, I think 19-10 or something, 20-10, when they struggled with a lot of new guys, a lot of fresh faces.
You know, if you're a fan of a team,
Kentucky this year, and
you know you're sick and tired.
Like said, I don't think they're a lock for the
your
SEC
team
title
not getting
either.
the 5-star recruits, the one and done recruits. I mean, look at Kentucky. It's not just because you have 5-star recruits and one and dones and NBA lottery picks doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be good, because college is a different game. Everything has to click. For Kansas, they've gotten a couple one and dones. They've got a couple of 5-star recruits, and they fit them within their system within a bunch of leaders. But they recruit guys that they know are going to stay, so that in the future they will be there to be that leader for these young guys that come in. Kentucky doesn't have it, so don't get on the Kentucky hype train, because I'm not.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely not. And you've got all these freshmen, and nobody's really back from.
You said they have two juniors that they have, but they don't play them.
So you kind of have to,
but they don't play them.
Build a new system that fits all your new guys. And I think they've got yeah, like we said, 6 freshmen have played already, and then to me, it's 2 juniors. Yeah, and nope. Well, they didn't play much last year. They haven't played at all this year. They've only rolled 8 guys. Um, depth will be a big issue for Kentucky as well.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
Kansas
I mean,
will
I'm just looking at
look to exploit that, kind of
their
get their
box
guys in
score
foul trouble,
against, I
drive the
think it was
lane, try and get their bigs in
Vermont.
trouble,
And
and
I mean,
send
4
them to
of
the
their
bench early and
starters
see how
put up
Kentucky
double-digit
bounces
figures,
back.
and the one starter, Nick Richards, he put up only 2 points. And this is a guy that I believe he was a 5-star. Yeah, he was a 5-star recruit. So, I don't know. I kind of have a feeling that this game is going to start off very fast. You know, you're going to obviously see Kansas's leadership, their experience within college basketball, and it's going to be a fast game. They're going to get some quick buckets, and you know, I think Kentucky's going to have some fits, and will Calipari be able to calm them down? I don't know. Their bench didn't contribute many points. It seems like that their starters they rely on to produce most of their points. Their bench, you know, Gabriel had 2, Kalia Jones had 6, and what is it? Galigius Alexander? Is that the name? And he only put up 4. So it seems like the guys that Coach Calipari goes to, it's even smaller because, you know, the bench didn't really contribute that much. It's really their starters. So he
Canadian.
He doesn't have many guys to turn to if they get in foul trouble. So I'm interested to see this.
Well, yeah, and I think, like you said, it'll start out quick, but I think as the game wears on, Kansas will just wear Kentucky down. And for the Wildcats, I don't really see a go-to guy on offense. I don't see a guy who can step up and put the team on his back and score 8, 10, 12 points in a row, kind of get that team back on track. Like if you got Diallo averaging 17 a game, Knox 11.5, Washington 11. Nobody really stands out as the go-to guy. I mean, Knox has shot 26% from the field. He's only averaging 11 points. He's put up terrible shooting numbers in 2 games to average 11 points a game. They don't have that alpha dog on offense who can go for 30 points a night, 35 points
double
a night,
digit
carry a team when everyone else
the 20 mark or like
so
into
that's
the 13,
another red flag with Kentucky.
12, 15 mark.
They'll find real quick, and they'll need somebody to step up. But I don't. To me, all signs point to a double-digit Kansas win, and it is what it is. I'm gonna say mid-teens, probably like 12 to 16 point range. I mean, before I do that, I mean, like, not to speak Kentucky, they do have talent. They have a ton of talent on paper. It just comes down to experience for me, and it doesn't translate well to big wins, especially against teams like Kansas. So, for me,
so what makes you think that they could? Yeah, what makes you think they could score that against Kansas? I agree.
Like 80, Kentucky 66. I mean, they've only put up 73 points in both games against Utah Valley and Vermont. 73 points against a higher quality team like Kansas.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Kansas.
So I'm gonna go less than that. I mean, not much less. Like we said, they had talent.
Kentucky, I think 68.
Kansas will lead by maybe 5 or 6 at half, and then
I think
slowly.
I don't think this is going to be decided early, but I think towards
at the end of the game,
beginning of the second half is when you're going to see Kansas start to really run away with the game, hit some back-to-back threes, and that'll get it going. So I'm going that. So who's your player of the game? Mm.
Just quick on what you said. Like you said, you don't think it'll be decided early. I don't think it will be either, but I think you'll have that vibe that Kansas is clearly the better team, and the scoreboard might say it's a close game, but
what I do think will happen though, like, while it's not going to decide the game, it's gonna maybe show the pace of the game.
Kansas is on the verge
at the beginning of the game. Like I think Kansas is going to have a lot of fast break,
and in the second half, like you said, the start of the second half,
a couple steals. I think it's going to really show,
and
that Kentucky's in for a long night. Then they'll be able to settle into the game, and then in the second half is eventually when they're going to run away with it. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go. I wish Preston played last game. I would like to see what he did. I mean, he's a big body guy. I like his high school tape. I feel like if he plays, he's gonna really take it to the Kentucky guys. I'm gonna go with Graham, senior leader. He did record 10 against
for Kansas
against Tennessee State, but he had 12 assists and 7 rebounds. So that's not a bad not a bad line. He also had 1 block. So I'm going to take him. He's going to have a game for himself. That's sort of, if I was taking the safe route, I would take Vic,
and 3 steals,
who scored 23 points, 3 assists, 5 rebounds. That would be he went 8 for 12 taking the safe route. That would be the safe route.
Bagley and Graham.
Yeah, and then if I would have said LeGerald Vic, you're gonna be like, and then I would have been like, Junior, he's been there a while.
Safe route's taking the senior leader who's been there for 3 years.
Use your logic against you
and runs the team.
Yeah, I don't dispute it. I'm just saying when people may look at Graham and they say, he only scored 10 points, but I think he's been there before. Also record 12 assists, which is unreal. So
he could be their go-to scorer. Wouldn't surprise me.
I think you had him by 5, and I had him by 3.
He impacts the game in more than just scoring, which is huge for Kansas. So we're both on Kansas. By double digits. I had him by 14. You had him by 15. Michigan State, I have him by, 4 or 5? 79-74. You had Duke by 3. I think long story short is we're in for a great Tuesday of basketball.
Awesome.
We'll do a recap show
tomorrow.
Maybe
I know where I'm going to be
Wednesday
tomorrow. I'm
or
going to be
Tuesday
watching
night after the games. We'll see.
Basketball, man.
At least one of us will. Kind of recap the games for you, give you a bit of a lowdown on what transpired in the fallout from 2 of the best games you will see all season outside of the NCAA tournament.
Do you even work?
Actually,
no, you do. You write articles. What do you got coming out soon? Got some recaps coming out?
Don't you have class? Oh. Well, never mind then. I'll be watching it all day because I'm off all day. It's No, I don't. We got some recaps tonight. We got a lot of games going on. Ryan, you've got the Notre Dame Mount St. Mary's. I'll take a look at a lot of the smaller schools where my heart lies. Try to stay away from the power conferences, but we got a lot of stuff going on. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Be sure to check us out online as well at collegecourtreport.com. For Ryan and myself, it's been a pleasure. Enjoy the Champions Classic on Tuesday night, and we'll chat with you later on. Cheers.